In Live 12, we've got a new device called Roar, which is a multi-stage saturation distortion effect that's dynamic, can be moved and modulated. Very cool device with lots of possibilities, and let's play around with it and learn more about how it works. So I've got just a kind of very basic instance of meld that we can use to hear what Roar is doing. So this is the initialized patch. It's adding a little bit of energy to this. Let's just go through a couple presets so we can hear what it's capable of, then we'll kind of break it down a bit. So we'll put on acid distortion. Alien Symphony. Now here's something a little more odd that you wouldn't necessarily expect from a distortion effect. Bad aux. It's going to sound like we got a little problem, little glitches. Then you can hear the movement and modulation in this particular patch. Bass fattener. Subtle circuit bent toy. Let's check out some of these glitchers. So if you really want to destroy your sound, Roar is pretty good for that. It's still destroying the sound. I'm not even playing anything anymore. Got some great feedback possibilities in Roar. So here's something that just kind of bursts in and out. Let's check out the lo-fi sampler. Makes things sound like it was sampled off of some kind of old school sampler with maybe a low bit rate. Some mild VHS. Gives a fuzzy sound. We've got tape saturation. And let's try Rect VHS. Cool sound. So now that we've heard what Roar can do, let's open it up and look at it. I'm going to start with this initialized preset. And we've got some controls in the beginning here, like a drive. This is the input drive. So this sends louder signals to Roar. So you can get kind of a breakup distortion before it even reaches these shapers. I'll leave that at 0 for now. The tone allows us to add some high frequencies while lowering the lower frequencies, or add some low frequencies while raising the higher frequencies. And the point at which the change, the crossover, I guess you could call it, is determined here. So I'm raising more of these frequencies below 1.56 kilohertz, and in this case I'm lowering those frequencies. Well, it gives you a little extra tone possibilities. It's broken up in this sort of input stage. Then we've got our shapers, our distortions. We've got modulation here. We've got the mod matrix. We've got a feedback circuit, which allows us to put the sound back into Roar. And then we've got a compressor in the output. And the nice thing about this device is you can expand it and really see what's going on and get a great overview of what's happening with Roar. So the first place to start is probably with the routing. We've got a few choices for our routing here. Right now we have single, which means it's just one stage of this shaper right here, and the other two are bypassed. Serial will put 2 distortions in a row, one after the other. Then we have parallel, which will run 2 distortions side by side. We've got multiband, which gives us low, mids, and highs that we can put our separate distortions on. Mid-side, which allows us to affect the middle and the sides of our mix. So the center, right down the middle, and then everything on the sides. That'll give you like wider sounds. And then feedback, the distortions are routed back into each other. So let's just start with single. Let's play around with this. So we've got some parameters here. We've got our amounts. We can see the visual feedback here. And the amount is talking about which shaper we have. And we have some different choices for our shapers. We can add some level to these. We'll just cycle through a few of them. There they are. There's a lot of variety right away before we've even done much. Let's say we play with, how about the tube preamp? We've got our mount control, and we've also got a bias, which kind of determines how this breaks up. And as we move it around, we get different sounds, and that's going to be different with every single one of these shapers we use. So this is probably a really fun parameter to modulate. And we've got our filter. And we can determine whether we want this filter to happen before or after the distortion with this button. So right now it's after the distortion, but if we press this, now it's happening before the distortion. So the signal is filtered before it hits the distortion in this case. Otherwise, we filter after the distortion. That'll lead to some different sounds. So I just set it to parallel, so now I've got another distortion that's happening side by side, and these signals will get processed, they get split, they get processed separately, then they'll be rejoined at the end here. So we've got another shaper over here. Let's try something kind of intense. Again, we're filtering this one after. Maybe we'll do this one before. And after. So I'm liking the movement on this, right? This right here, there's filter frequency number 2. And as I click on things, you'll notice that over here in our modulation matrix, we highlight the last thing we touched. So let's modulate this, let's say with LFO1, and see what that sounds like. You can see it happening. Here's LFO1 down here moving around. And we can morph this a bit. Smooth it out so it'll be a little softer. We can change the shape, of course. I think I kind of like this. Smooth it out, morphed triangle wave. And we can choose how we want this to be cycling. So right now I've chosen synced, which is going to give us rhythmic values to our music. We can do free, for instance, which is just a time. And we can also do things like triplets and dotted notes and things like that. But let's do free for now. And maybe I want that a little bit more of an effect here. Very nice. So as you can see, we have 2 different LFOs to play with inside of Roar, as well as an envelope follower. Now this is really cool because it's listening to the volume of the input. So whenever I play, you can see the volume, and this sound kind of fades out. And we can use the shape we create, this blue line, to modulate other parameters in our sound here. So I'm thinking, why don't we take the amount of the first shaper? If I click on that here, we should see that pop up, and we'll modulate that with envelope. Let's crank this all the way up. Open that filter a bit. And let's turn this up even more. And we can add some gain to this to get a bigger envelope. Get some cool sounds there. It's pretty intense what you can come up with here. This is all going to change depending on what kind of shaper we're using. We can even invert this so that our shaper will get more intense as the sound fades out. As we fade out, this is growing in amount. Bring that down a little. Nice. We've got this noise waveform as well, and that's another thing we can use to modulate. And we got a few different noise parameters that you can see them moving differently as I choose them. And maybe let's try a different type of algorithm here, a different type of routing. We'll do multi-band. So now we have 3 bands, and these are now determined by frequencies. So we can look at the different cutoffs of our bands right here. So the low band is going to be anything from 0 to 200. The mid band will be 200 hertz to 2000 hertz, and everything above that will be the high band. And we can adjust that. So we can say have more low frequencies go through here, or fewer. Let's leave it at the standard for now. And we've got this full reactor rectifier distortion here on the middle. We can change our filter type here as well, which is kind of cool. Let's choose the comb filter. Like crank up the resonance. So the middle of our signal is really getting this interesting modulation going on here. Speed up the rate on that a little bit. Sounds there. We might even do resampling as a very interesting type of filter. Noisy and distorted. I might bring the output down just a little bit here. And let's play around with the highs. We have really nothing going on the highs yet. Let's see about, let's try the diode clipper. We can deactivate the other channels as well so we can hear what's going on a little more. There's not a ton of high frequencies happening here, so maybe we can change that by altering our sound a little bit here, adding some tone. And this is just a nice way to really get a sense of what each one of these is doing on their own. So if we want to get like a glitching thing happen, maybe we'll modulate the bias a little bit here. So we got the bias. Let's use LFO2 for that. Shaper 3 bias. We can see we're moving this control around. And we can just kind of hear some of the different types of distortions and how they are changed when we move that bias control. And that sounds like clipping and digital chaos. Let's see what this all sounds like brought back together. Let's This might be an instance where we do a little filtering. Try the full wave rectifier. Shards is very intense. Got some interesting movement going on. We might use the noise. We could use that maybe to modulate the let's see, maybe sometime shaper 1, maybe the bias there. Maybe even this filter too, it seems a little bit too uniform. We can get some weirdness happening here. Try different noises. Then we have something rhythmic happening with the sample and hold noise. Brown is just pure chaos. It's interesting. That has to do with the modulating the bias, I suppose. So I guess brown is the most insane of the noises. I kind of like the rhythmic stuff of sample and hold. I'm even going to put that on bias 3. And maybe now we'll just look at the feedback. And feedback can be done by time, sync, all that stuff. And this has a big impact. We've been going 100% wet the whole time. What if we dial this back a little? It's pure chaos right now. So Roar gets pretty wild pretty fast. If you want to learn more about the new features in Ableton Live 12, check out the playlist I made that covers a bunch of these new features that are really fun and exciting. If you want to just learn about music production, check out the Music Production Podcast where we talk about all things related to music. And I've also got tons of Ableton Live packs at my website, brianfunk.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.